Okay, this is one of my all-time favorite things that happened in the store. It happened today.
Okay.
It's on a fairly busy Saturday, and I was at the side counter talking with Andy, Huddle, and Jen.
Okay.
And
we're naming names, are we?
Well, yes. They're not. They're witnesses. They're not involved.
Okay.
A guy comes up to the counter, and he's kind of standing there for a second. So I'm like, "Yeah, can I help you?" And he says, "Faith." And I go,
I'm sorry?
"Excuse me?" Faith. So when you say Faith, there's Faith from Valiant.
Sure.
There's Faith from Buffy.
Sure.
There's Faithless.
Okay, yeah.
There's Fearless, which people confuse with Faithless on occasion.
Sure. There's also the concept of faith.
Right, yeah.
Having it or not having it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how do you mean? He's like, Valiant. I'm like, oh, okay. She doesn't have a book right now, but we've got a couple of trades. Let me show you where they are. Mm-hmm. Walk them over to the trades. We have Volume 1, Volume 2. Mm-hmm. So I do the thing where I put my finger on them and I lean them out so you can see they're right there. Yep. I'm like, there you go. Like, again, she doesn't have a series. This is what they got.
Right.
Go back to the front counter. A few minutes later, he walks up with both of them. Mm-hmm. And he goes, yeah, how much are these? I'm like, well, this one is $9.99. It's introductory price, $10. This one's $15. How much altogether? Okay. Scan them both. $27.52. The guy goes, ugh, throws his arms up, turns around, slowly walks out the door.
Okay.
And by this point, Sam was back at the front. She goes, is he going to his car to get money? And I go, let's find out. So we all walk outside and watch this gentleman just walk south, down Western, a couple times, throws his arms up in the air to no one. It keeps going. What the hell was that?
I can't wait till he comes back in with his wallet Sunday because he had to walk to, let's say, Peoria to get his wallet.
I can't wait for the 2-star Yelp review, like how expensive our books are. Like, what? What was that?
It definitely seems unwarranted.
I'm sorry, our books are cover price?
Yeah. I mean, less than $30 for 2 graphic novels with tax seems like a pretty good deal.
Pretty good deal. You're getting like 12 issues of comics right there.
Yeah.
If they were only $3 a piece, you're at $36. Spoiler alert, those books were not $3 a piece.
Yeah.
So there you go. I just could not wait to share that story.
Sounds like you had fun.
Because it's just, all you can do is laugh and be like, you guys, what just happened?
For any occasion, don't keep patting down waiting. Comics and conversation, keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers. And now, here are Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
Dal, you're going to be disappointed.
No.
I had notes that I wrote up at the store today. And I left them at the store tonight.
Oh, do you want me to fill for time while you go get them?
Oh, sure. If you don't mind, I will go back to the store.
Fantastic.
Go on, start filling.
Stumptown's pretty good this season. They just did a 2-part episode with Donal Logue as a crummy private investigator. I've really enjoyed that part.
You mean Harvey Bullock?
See, that's the thing. Like, I only watched the first episode of Gotham, and I hated that.
Yeah.
So he'll always be the guy from Terriers?
The guy from Terriers, yeah, absolutely.
Like, that's more what I'm seeing in his performance in Stumptown.
So what you're telling me is the second episode wrapped up that storyline?
Yeah, well, this week's episode, which I think was episodes 3 and 4.
I mean the second episode of that story arc. Okay.
Yeah, the downside of Stumptown this season so far, in the 4 episodes that I've watched, which is the 4 episodes that they've aired, the 4th episode really shines a spotlight on it, and it's for a show that I'm watching because of Kobe Smulders and to a lesser extent because of Jake Johnson and Michael Ealy and Donal Logue and Cameron Manheim. They're really trying to make, at least in episodes 3 and 4, it feels like way more of an ensemble show.
Okay.
Where there's like 3 or 4 different plots going on, and all of the characters kind of have their own plot. And some of that stuff is coming into play. It's like a more of a mega arc that they're building towards.
Sure. Like, I definitely believe that the Jake Johnson arc is going to
Immediately.
Yeah.
Yes. The 4th episode, like, ratchets that one up, and then we find out more about the Michael Ealy arc with, like, his dead partner, who we find out in the 4th episode. Whoops, did they say partner? They meant informant. Sorry.
Oh, they did say partner.
They did say partner.
Yeah.
And even in the previously on, I think they have that line of dialogue, but then in this episode there's a flashback, and it's like, he was not a partner, he was an informant.
Oh, interesting.
But regardless, like, that stuff, there's a bunch of those scenes that are not in any way connected to what Dex is doing in the episode. And again, I see why they're doing that. They're kind of laying the groundwork for stuff that's going to come up later, but on its own merits in the episode, it's not that interesting. And it's like, give me the stuff with Cobie Smulders and Donal Logue. Like, that plot line, that investigation, those characters together are brilliant. This other stuff where it's like Jake Johnson's criminal past or Michael Ealy's guilt, it's like, I only care about those in how they relate to Cobie Smulders.
Yeah.
I don't care about them as characters. That's not the point of them. That's not the point of the show. So that, it's kind of ups and downs as far as Stumptown episodes 3 and 4. The detective stuff is great. Kind of everything else, like, basically every scene Cobie Smulders isn't in, it's like, I don't know why you're showing me this.
Well, I do have a confession.
You should be getting the notes. Why are you talking to me about this?
I never met Shaka Khan.
Oh, no.
I don't have a daughter.
Oh, no.
Sorry. So I'm obviously an episode behind from where you are, but
Yeah,
I'm
I just
it.
watched the 4th one today.
I'm enjoying it so far. It's good.
I honestly didn't think I'd be sticking with it. I thought it was something that I would very quickly lose patience with, because I generally do with procedurals. But I think it's got some charm to it. I like the actors in it. Again, even the ones, like, I don't hate the actors in it so much as I hate that they're taking characters that I don't care that much about and putting them in solo plot lines.
Got it.
Like, Michael Ealy is an actor. I like what he's doing on that show. I like his character. I like how he plays off of Cobie Smulders and Jake Johnson and Cameron Manheim. But then you do a little scene with him, like, going to his informant's widow, and it's just like, I don't care about this. This is not what the show should be about. Or like Jake Johnson has a scene with Cobie's brother Ansel, and it's just like,
I thought his name was Bud. Hey, Bud.
Hey, buddy. And it's a scene where just, like, it's doing plot work, and no one's doing bad acting in it, but it's just like, this is all set up. All of this is just set up for later storylines. And episode 4 felt like way too much setup for future episodes across a whole bunch of plot lines. It wasn't just one thing that was kind of seeding in this other idea. It's just, anytime Cobie Smulders wasn't on the scene, it's like, oh, we have to do this bit so that we can do this later bit, so then we can do the thing that Cobie Smulders will have a connection to.
Got it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, again, I'm still on board.
Okay.
with it.
Yeah, same here. I didn't quit the show or anything, but
Has anybody come up and asked you about the TV show or the graphic novel?
no.
And didn't we put it on the front table?
We did. I think we did after the first week, because I'd sold one.
Yeah.
Around when the first episode aired, and I thought, oh, that's right, the show's on the air now. We should maybe spotlight this. Yeah, it's probably going to leave the front table in a week or two, because the window of people being intrigued or caring about it is probably closed.
Or finding it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's too bad. It's another example of people being into a thing, but not caring about the source material.
Sure, and frankly, that's me. I don't like the Stumptown comic at all. Like, 0%. I read the first issue when it came out years ago, and I thought, this is not good. So, watching the show was not, oh my god, I love these stories, and Greg Rucka is such a great writer. It was mostly like, oh, Cobie Smulders is in this. I'll see what it's about.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm also a viewer who does not want to buy the graphic novel.
Well, this is not a thing that I'd written down on my notes, but we did have a midnight release for X-Men #1 this week.
We did, yeah.
And it is still kind of great to see the dedication and passion of comic fans to come out at midnight for a release. And it's the kind of thing that I used to do, not obviously for comics because it wasn't a thing, but when Tower Records would always have the Tuesday releases available at midnight,
Same
if
here.
there was an album I wanted, I was there.
Yeah.
I believe we did multiple trips together.
Buy it. Like, just think about how many things in that scenario would make no sense to a teenager today. Buying music on a CD from a store
Tower
on a
Records?
Tuesday night.
Yeah.
None of that is how music
No,
works anymore.
Definitely not. Definitely not. But it's still, like, it...
They'd have their little new releases cart, and
The
you
little
would just
cart,
go
they'd wheel
around
the
it.
cart
and
out.
find,
Yeah,
"Oh,
they wouldn't
here's-
even put it out. They would
Here's
just
the
put
albums
cart.
I want.
But it's just the only thing that I have that represents that level of interest.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything besides CDs that I would have ever gone to a midnight release for. I want to say once or twice it was probably like a video game console launch, or maybe a specific video game.
I feel like you've
or
gone
movie
out
that came out.
to midnight to get some a game here and there
Yeah,
in the last decade.
not a lot anymore for sure.
No, but at least, like, I think maybe I know you did it twice.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I really can't think of anything. Like even iPhone launches, 11, 12 years ago. Yeah, not really.
I remember you would go like day of, like you went
Yeah.
for a day of for an iPhone release.
Yeah, there was one where I was working nights, and it was the day the first iPhone came out, and I really wanted one. And I don't know if they'd not done pre-orders or I hadn't pre-ordered it, but a few of the stores I went to, the night of its release, I was working a day job and I was working a night job, so I kind of had this kind of hour or two between. And I would go to, the Singular store, because Singular Wireless was the initial carrier for the iPhone
Wow.
before they got bought by AT&T.
Wow, Singular.
Like right before. I think it's one of the reasons AT&T bought them. They didn't have it. Best Buy didn't have it. The Apple Store
sold out or just didn't have it?
sold out.
Okay.
The Apple Store at that point didn't have it, but they would have some the next day. So I worked overnight and then that Saturday morning, I believe it was Saturday morning, because I didn't work that day. I left the night job I was working at like 5 or 6 in the morning, because Friday nights would always take longer. And instead of getting off at 4 in the morning, I got off at 5 or 6. Drove to Oakbrook.
Yeah, it was Oakbrook. I remember it was the Oakbrook one.
Went to the Oakbrook Apple Store, and there was it was a few hours before the place opened, so I was like the second person in line, and I'd already been awake for like 20 hours maybe, and this is over a week where I was already working like 80 hours.
Yeah.
So I was exhausted and like definitely had a little bit of dementia, maybe? I don't know what you call it. Like, I was not 100% aware of my surroundings. Like, the passage of time would be a thing where I would just look around and go, oh, it's 15 minutes later. I don't know what happened in between those moments. But I got my iPhone because I was like the second person in. And then took it home and activated it and slept for 12 hours and then was like, iPhone!
And you never looked back.
I never looked back.
Did you do you got to a store early, a few hours early for a video game console in Florida?
Oh, yeah. I was visiting my mom, and I was still looking for a Switch at that point, because it had come out a few months earlier, and everybody was sold out forever, but then there was like Nintendo announced, oh, they're going to be hitting Toys R Us's. Toys R Us is also not a thing anymore. And they would have some there, and so I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to be in Florida, and I called that Toys R Us near my mom when I got off the plane, and they're like, yeah, we're going to have some tomorrow. So, that basically, saw my mom and went to the motel and slept for the night and got up early in the morning, went to that Toys R Us. I was like the first or second person in line, bought a Switch, took the Switch home on the plane with me.
And you never looked back.
I never looked back. It's been gathering dust for a while because I have not been playing video games for like 9 months.
When we got to the store Tuesday night at about 11:50 something.
Yeah, 51 or 52.
When we got there, there was a few people out front, and I thought like, oh, it's not that big. It's like 5 or 6 people. Mm-hmm. And then we were in the store for 5 minutes. Then I'm like, I'll open early, let people come in. They just can't buy anything till midnight. And then I went and opened the door, and the line went down to Delgado's.
That's great.
And then, cars were pulling up, and people were jumping out of taxis, and there were people waiting in their cars. It's came out of nowhere. It's like, oh my goodness, because I told you I was going to do a like a Facebook Live video of the dedicated people, but when I saw there was only a handful of people, I'm like, oh, I don't want it to make it look like nobody was here.
Sure.
And then there were a ton of people.
Don't document that. Yeah, we had been telling people about it, and it had been on our website, and in our emails, and on our Facebook, and we did Instagram posts, and we did all this stuff. And all that stuff is always very, I don't want to say invisible, but we never really get much feedback on it. It's tough to know if people are seeing it and don't care, or they don't see it at all, or they do see it and they are excited. So this was an instance where it's like, oh, they did see it and they were excited. And obviously, I think we talked about it before, but all of the week's releases were available. That's a change from Diamond at a distribution level. If a book is released for a midnight release, you can, as a store, sell everything for the week instead of just that book or that publisher's books, or have to get approval for everything you sell. It's just the policy now, which is great because it means that people don't have to come back for separate trips. But I think this time they probably would have. I never got really the feeling that there were people who were like, well, fine, I can get everything, I'll show up. They wanted X-Men.
Yeah.
They'll buy the other stuff, but they wanted X-Men.
Yeah. And we were open for less than an hour, like we normally are for midnight releases, and we did, honestly, like, not quite half of a normal Wednesday in that time.
Yeah.
Which was...
closer to like 30 or 40%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect, but like the last two, the Action 1000 and Detective 1000, those were $10 books, or I guess an $8 book and a $10 book, and those did significantly better financially.
Yes.
And I guess like I don't know if it was a different turnout or what.
Sure. I think we could try and double check what the customer count was. I don't know how we'd necessarily parse that out.
Yeah.
But I think the difference was, and what we've seen from the Dawn of X and I'm sorry, not Dawn of X, but House of X and Powers of 10, and what surprised me was there's not a lot of people who are getting all the variants for these books.
Yeah.
With Action Comics 1000, a lot of people were getting all the covers. With Detective, people were getting a handful of covers, and I think the people who showed up at midnight were more inclined to get, if not all the covers, then nearly all of them. But the people who are getting the Hickman X-Men stuff, most of them get one, maybe two covers. A few will get like a bunch, but like very few people were getting like all of them or anything close. Most people were getting like the regular Lineal U cover and the Art Germ Jean Grey cover. That was about it. Yeah,
even in the ensuing days, there were just people getting a cover, not necessarily the main cover,
right?
But just a cover.
Yeah, people weren't getting everything, and I think that limited a little bit what we could make on an event like that.
But still, it was a great 13 weeks of having a new X-Men book every week.
For sure.
And we technically still will.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, we're waiting to see if it has the urgency.
What's been weird to me and a little bit frustrating is that more people the last 4 or 5 days have been doing the, okay, fine, put me down for all the X-Men stuff.
Yeah.
That's a thing that some people were doing, but most of the last few days there's been at least one person, if not multiple people, who email us and go, give me everything.
Yep.
Like they were on the fence, and it's not like Marauders came out and it killed. We're still, as we're recording this, 5 days out from Marauders coming out, but people are like, they just want to be in. They want to be in on it.
They don't want to miss out.
No, and it's a little frustrating, like I said, because if we had, as always, had those numbers 3 weeks ago, I probably would have ordered more. Thought I was ordering a lot. Now, as we get closer to the release of Marauders and Excalibur, I'm like, I don't know that I ordered enough. I think I did.
I think we're okay.
But
I think we're fine.
Just like with House of X, what felt like, oh, we ordered enough for a few months, is now turned into, I think we ordered enough for the first month.
I'm just interested to see how many people stick with the books.
Yeah.
I don't know that everybody's going to want all 6 titles. There's also been speculation in the industry that some of these are maximum 6-issue miniseries.
Yeah, well, so I think for our customers, I think people are going to want every first issue. Unless one of them sucks real bad, in which case maybe you'll get a few people to drop it because they're just furious about it. I don't know how many people follow these books into 2020, though.
Yeah.
I think the first couple months are going to be... People are going to be looking at them real cautiously and looking for reasons to kind of change their mind on it. And, I guess we'll find out. As far as, like, things being... rejiggered after 6 issues. I'm okay with that. I don't care if any of these books are short runs by creators and someone else comes on. I'm well past the point of trying to chide Marvel for doing constant number 1s. They work. It's what the industry wants. It's what the readers want. Do it. Fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see if Doctor Strange Surgeon Supreme does that kind of jump.
I don't think it's going to, because people don't like Doctor Strange right now.
Nope.
I stopped reading it with the Galactus stuff, I think.
I did too, actually. Yeah.
Um,
When Barry Kitson came on as co-plotter,
Yep.
That's when I stopped.
That's when I checked out. But yeah, it's the Doctor Strange thing is the Doctor Strange thing. But the X-Men stuff, yeah, I'm okay with these things basically being miniseries. I don't think that's a flaw in their plotting.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. Speaking of miniseries, did you see any of the DC solicits that came out today?
No, I saw nothing.
January 2020 solicits for DC came out, and some of it's stuff that we'd already kind of heard about or had been sort of promoted by creators. There's a Superman one-shot called Superman Heroes coming out that's like the Event Leviathan prelude that they did,
Oh, okay.
where it's a Bendis lead story, but a little bit Fraction, a little bit Rucka, but it's all built around Superman revealing his identity to the world.
See, that, based off of an image I saw of a cover of the Superman issue I'm ordering now for December,
Mm-hmm.
it was just an Ivan Rice piece.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm like, it looks like he's revealing himself.
Yep.
Because his family is scattered across the galaxy and blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they're doing that. That's a $10 one-shot. Kevin Maguire's the main artist, but there's going to be Fraction Lieber stuff. There's going to be Rucka Perkins stuff. There's also Wonder Woman 750.
Yeah, I saw that. I
Which
did see
is
that was a thing.
Basically, they're Wonder Woman 1000. They just can't get to 1000. So it's a $10 book, main cover by Joel Jones, decade covers by a lot of great artists, frankly.
Is this going back to legacy numbering now?
It's the only one they show on there, but I gotta assume the next issue is going to be 751.
That's
what DC's done in the
Yeah,
past.
okay. That's what I was assuming, but I didn't know for
Yeah.
sure. But I also thought they would be revealing a new creative team
Well,
for this.
the main creative team on this one is Steve Orlando, who's the current writer.
Yeah.
But they're really promoting the idea of Gail Simone and Greg Rucka coming back to do stories.
Huh.
As well as a whole bunch of other creators that have not necessarily done Wonder Woman stuff, but are people that DC wants to put on the book. I can't remember any right now, but we'll be promoting that a lot more
Was
in
Vita
January.
one of them?
Vita Ayala, I think, was one,
Yeah.
yes. And a few other people. I mean, nothing on there was like, oh my god, great, but nothing was like, ugh, Frank Thierry. They didn't show off any of the decade covers, though. But they did list the different cover artists, and again, they're all great. I don't know what the demand is going to be for this. There's definitely some hardcore Wonder Woman fans who will want this to celebrate the character. The reach for the character is not as great as Batman and Superman. We got burned pretty bad on the Batman one, so we're probably going to be kind of light on it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is we won't be midnight opening for this.
I don't think so, because it's January, and that's maybe not a great time in Chicago to get people out at midnight, waiting outside your business. But the thing that was in the DC solicits that I thought was fascinating was the Brian Azzarello, Emmanuel Lupacino Birds of Prey is relisted as a Black Label book, as a Black Label one-shot.
Huh.
That includes material previously solicited as Birds of Prey 1 and 2.
Interesting.
A 96-page one-shot.
Huh.
Found that real interesting.
I did see a piece today about DC has a new format.
Yes, well, they don't have a new format,
They have
but
a
they
new
have a new name for
yeah.
an existing format. What we would call magazine size or oversized is now called, I think, Prestige Plus.
I thought it was Super Prestige. No, maybe we're both wrong. I don't know.
I'm going to look it up because it was in the DC email.
Yes,
that went out today.
that's where I saw the Wonder Woman 750 as well. Was that
I'm going to look that up.
that special? I do tend
Prestige Plus is what they're calling it.
You were
It's
right.
weird because they
That
listed
was
as
right.
periodicals that fit the Prestige Plus format would include Superman Year One, Joker Killer Smile, and the upcoming Joker Harley Criminal Sanity. You should flip those last two because one of those came out and one of those didn't, and it's not the one you think. DC's prestige format titles are defined as featuring square binding and cardstock covers at the standard comic book trim size of 6.625 inches by 10.1875 inches. Prestige Plus is 8.5 inches, or 8.5 inches by 10.875 inches.
Basically 8.5 by 11.
Yeah, versus 6.5 by 10.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. I mean, at least now we'll know what it says. We'll know what it is.
Prestige Plus.
Yeah.
Something no one's ever going to remember. Just like you and I, where only half of us remembered what
Yeah,
it was.
that's correct.
And we'd
We
known
both
about it
knew
for 6 hours.
We both knew it had a name.
6 hours. And all of a sudden it's like, what was it called again?
Do you think the size and format
Uh-huh.
of Superman Smashes the Klan
Uh-huh.
could hurt sales?
Yes. Which, this is a problem of their own making. It was never supposed to be, at least that we were told, when it was part of the Zoom initial listing. I don't remember them ever saying it was a 3-issue series. It was always a graphic novel.
Yeah.
And they took that graphic novel and they chopped it up into 3 chapters. So it's this size. This is the size it has to be because that's how big a kid's graphic novel is.
Yeah.
It's weird. I mean, are we racking it in sidekicks?
I would assume.
Okay.
It's definitely all ages.
Okay.
We can double rack it if there's room.
Probably need a double rack because a bunch of copies.
Yeah. We didn't order heavy. We just ordered. We ordered up because we like the creators.
Yeah, we have
involved.
confidence in it as a project.
Yeah, and it's bi-monthly, so there's plenty of time to.
Yeah, I think if it had been regular comic size or Prestige Plus, it would have done better. But yeah, it's hard to say.
I wonder why it has to be bi-monthly.
I don't know, because that's not necessarily.
If it's a graphic novel that's already done.
Yeah, well, it's weird because when you do that, it's for production reasons. The book's not done, or it needs more time, or whatever.
Yeah.
They've done it frequently with the Prestige Plus format books, but I want to say Harleen is one they've listed as monthly. It is not a bi-monthly Prestige Plus series.
I didn't think Criminal Sanity was bi-monthly, was
Yeah,
it?
I think that's also monthly.
Okay, because a bi-monthly 7-issue series is a bad idea.
9 issues.
9-issue series is a bad idea. Yeah.
Year and a half. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Superman Year One and technically Batman Damned were bi-monthly series.
Yeah.
It wasn't Prestige Plus, but the Last Night on Earth was also one that was 2 to 3 months between issues.
Yeah, that's so weird. That's the only real deviation from the Prestige Plus format.
For Black Label?
Yeah.
No, because Curse of the White Knight.
Yeah, that's
is
true.
Black Label,
But
and
that's
just a regular comic book.
Yep.
And I think Last God, I think it's coming out. I don't think that's Prestige Plus, but I could be wrong on that.
They're really pushing Last God, and we did not order heavy at all.
No, they overshipped us on it, so we'll see if that helps. But yeah, most kind of original property stuff at DC, if it's not part of the DC universe or whatever, it just doesn't feel like fans care that much. That's why Vertigo went away, was because they tried one last push for all these original properties, and most of them went like 6 issues and out. Even like the Young Animal stuff, Collapser nobody cares about. That's a 6-issue series. Doom Patrol Weight of the Worlds is wrapping up at 7.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. Probably for the best.
Probably.
It sold okay for us.
What's the other Young Animal book? Not Far Sector, but isn't there another one?
Probably.
Okay.
Do you know how hard it is for me to remember all 6 Dawn of X titles at one time?
Oh man!
If you ask me at different
easy
points,
for me.
I always forget a different one.
How many times people have just said, "Can you put me down for all those?" And I'm the one who has to put them down. So it's like, yep, I can definitely do that. I can even tell you the weeks they're coming out. I had to do it with a bunch of people this week. I'm like, oh, here, X-Men #1. Next week is Marauders #1. The week after that's going to be Excalibur #1. The week after that is New Mutants and X-Force coming out on the same day.
What?
And then the week after that is Fallen Angels. That's 5 weeks of books that'll be launching Dawn of X.
But at what point is X-Men #2?
Sometime next year is Wolverine #1. And then eventually X-Corps, I think, that they've stealth launched. Or stealth announced
in the back of Captain Marvel. Yeah.
Which was probably not supposed to be a stealth announcement so much as they should have mentioned it on a panel, and then they forgot it was in a letters column and it wasn't announced at a panel. And then it was too late because they printed it. because New York happened.
Yeah, but it could also go away.
Yeah, and there's a Moira X book that I think Hickman's already promised.
Rumor is that the writer for that book, any guesses?
No.
Mike Carey.
Okay. I was really close with guessing Denise Mina then. I was really close without even realizing it.
True. For the record, Dal did guess Denise Mina
Yes.
in the store a few days ago.
Because I'm like, look, who's a Scottish writer? You got to write the Scottish lady. Denise Mina.
Right?
Scottish writer. Scottish lady.
Right. Right.
She would make it so Scottish. I mean, if you can't get Grant Morrison,
Oh, it's Grant Morrison, didn't I tell you?
get Mike Carey. Yeah, no, it's I'm very excited about what a Moira X book could be at this point, because they left themselves a lot of room to tell that story.
Do you think that that's an idea that was given to them by Marvel's new chief creative officer, Kevin Feige?
Did you just say Ossifer? I don't want to call attention to it, but
I have no idea if I did or not.
okay, I think you did.
Huh.
You're a little bit drunk. That's fine.
I'm also standing.
You are.
Because my leg hurts. My knee and my leg hurt so bad when I sit that
That
I'm
can be
standing.
distracting. I get it. I didn't mean to make you feel bad. I hope I didn't.
No, I just wonder if my voice sounds like I'm further away or something.
Maybe.
And also, it's very weird because I'm standing over Dal, looking down at him, judging harshly.
Fine. I'm used to it. Yeah,
But usually you're looking down at me as I'm judging you, but now I'm looking down at you.
the judgment is really what I'm looking for. That's
Okay.
all I want to see. Kevin Feige was announced as being the new chief creative officer of all of Marvel as a concept for the Walt Disney Company. Formerly, he was running Marvel Studios, and they started to incorporate some more TV stuff, or I don't want to say TV-oriented stuff, but things for Disney Plus that are less theatrical release-oriented and more streaming-oriented. Now he is completely in charge of Marvel. That includes Jeff Loeb's Marvel TV stuff. Jeff Loeb now reports to Kevin Feige. And also Marvel Publishing, where Dan Buckley, the president and publisher, reports to Kevin Feige. A lot of speculation.
Who does Alan
about
Fine report to?
that.
Who even is Alan Fine?
Alan Fine, I think, is the president. It's tricky because there's also some stuff where the former man in charge of Marvel Publishing.
Was it Ike?
Ike.
Ike Perlmutter?
Ike Perlmutter. I already forgot his name because I would like to forget his name very quickly
I
if I
forgot
can.
that he exists as a human being.
Is still in charge of some aspect of it, like the financials.
The sales.
Yeah.
He's in charge of the sales.
I don't know if that means that he can veto. Like, that was a thing where somebody, I think The Beat was reporting on it, and I think Heidi had brought up the idea that, Kevin Feige could say, this is where I want Marvel Publishing to be creatively, and then Dan Buckley or Cebulski could say, oh, we're going to reach out to this writer and get them to write this book, and then Ike could go, well, we're not paying that much for that writer,
No women.
Somebody else.
No women characters or creators.
Like, he couldn't say that necessarily, but he could say...
That's what he was saying back when he was in charge.
Right, which is why I'd like to forget him as quickly as possible. So it's unclear to me kind of how much control, if any, he still has over Marvel Publishing. But obviously, the Kevin Feige being in charge is a huge change for the reporting structure of that company, and it led to a lot of people having a lot of takes and a lot of theories and a lot of fears and a lot of hopes.
A lot of dreams, a lot of goals.
I don't know that I feel anything about it yet, mostly because it's unclear, again, kind of what it even means.
It sounds good. It sounds like a thing that will get people excited, but it could also just be him saying, hey, you guys are doing fine. I got movies to make.
Yeah, I have a lot of kind of conflicting separate thoughts on it. One of the big ones is that the more scrutiny the non-comic side has of the comic side, the less it usually works out for the comic side. Basically, look at DC Comics right now and how they're doing. Yeah. Since Burbank got real interested in what DC was doing in the publishing side, the kind of, as long as you don't make waves and don't cost us a bunch of money, you can keep doing what you're doing, those days are over. These are lines to be exploited. These are companies to be harnessed for the greater good of the conglomerate. That is usually not a great way to make art, and it's usually not a great way for stuff that is financially niche-oriented to survive. I mentioned a few episodes back, I can't remember when, that there is a very real possibility at some point in the not-too-distant future, both AT&T and Disney decide that publishing comics is irrelevant to creating comic book-oriented content. Superhero movies and TV shows and whatever have literal decades, nearly 100 years of content to mine for stories. And it'll reach a point where they don't feel like they need that anymore. And I don't know that, Kevin Feige's a guy that seems like he respects Marvel Publishing as for, what they've done and what they've created, that his side of the company has been able to turn into multi-billion-dollar franchises. But maybe there's a point where that just doesn't seem like it makes financial sense, or the version of Marvel that we see now doesn't make financial sense. Already, rumors were going around of, they're going to be moving to LA.
Yeah, that was my next question.
Yeah, if the guy who's overseeing you is in LA, he's probably going to want the people who are reporting to him to be in LA as well.
Yep.
So they could absolutely be moving out of New York as well, just like DC had to, because the people who were overseeing DC Publishing were in Burbank, and they wanted the people who worked under them to be in the same building or on the same lot. I would love it if Marvel as a company got a little bit more financial support from Disney, the publisher. There's a lot of things that Marvel could be doing as a publisher to take advantage of the cultural capital they have that Ike has basically kept them from being able to do. Just reaching out to some larger creators to being able to pay the money to get big names to work on these projects. AT&T and Warner Brothers weren't really doing it for DC, to the point that even Neil Gaiman, who's a celebrated author who makes a shit ton of money and sells books on his name alone, was doing Sandman Overture basically as a passion project. He basically said, I'm taking a pay cut doing this.
Yeah.
Working on this. The amount of time that he would have to spend writing those scripts and working with the artists and getting 6 issues of that book out the door, where he could have done a novel and made, I'm making up a number, 10 times that. He could have done 6 kids' books and probably made 60 times that. But he's like, I want to do this project. But you don't get guys like that all the time, who are people who are willing to kind of abandon their real career to do comic books. Like, Ta-Nehisi Coates is probably not making what he would make for other projects doing Black Panther and Captain America, but he's a guy who loves comic books and feels like he has something to say. Folks like that are not under every rock,
Right.
So I don't know what the Kevin Feige thing means, and I'm certainly not well-versed enough in that level of the corporations to say, oh, this is definitely how it's going to shake out. I got hopes and I got fears.
It's just one of the few times that a major position has been filled where we didn't automatically go either, who is that, or, oh.
Yeah, it's not just somebody in, Disney's consumer products division.
Yeah.
Who were like, oh, they're going to run this thing into the ground, or I don't know if they're going to care that much about, a good comic book versus a profitable comic book, and how those aren't always the same thing, but they both have value. A lot of the characters, and hopefully Kevin Feige realizes this, a lot of the characters that Marvel is making movies out of now and making a ton of money off of consumer products for are characters that were never big deal characters. They weren't the top of the charts. They weren't high sellers. Some of the stuff that they're doing well with for younger fans are characters like Ms. Marvel, who's brand new, Squirrel Girl, who was nobody for literally decades, Spider-Gwen, who's brand new,
Patriot, who they made.
Patriot, who's made up.
Who's, brand new-ish, but yeah.
Yeah, even stuff like the Eternals. Jesus Christ, the Eternals never made money for Marvel. Ever, ever, ever. And that's a movie they're making next year. Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
The list goes on. A lot of their current phase of movie characters, and even the Disney Plus stuff. I mean, they're making shows off of She-Hulk and Moon Knight. And again, those characters have had great runs, and if you didn't let that sort of stuff exist, you would never have the version that you're probably going to be making a TV show out of. So yeah, hopefully there's an understanding that even just as R&D for the movies and streaming stuff, it has value in letting that company keep doing what it's doing. But again, when you're in the purview of someone whose projects are
I believe it's Perlmutter.
making billions of dollars regularly, comics that a high-selling issue might make $1 million is kind of, on the one hand, it's not worth screwing around with because who cares? But on the other hand, if that's the best you can do, why are we working this hard at it? You know?
Yeah, if a really solid Marvel Studios movie can make more than the entire publishing arm for a year.
Yeah. And when you're talking about a movie that, you know, in its 10th or 12th week of release is still making more per day than your lines might make in a month. Like, these are not... It's apples and oranges, but it is a situation that, you know, the expectations that are created by how well the other versions of these characters are doing kind of makes the publishing stuff seem less integral to the overall company.
It's also really depressing if you concentrate on it.
Yeah, I would.
But you have to gloss over it and
I
just
wouldn't.
think like, oh boy, I can't wait to read Superman Smashes the Klan #2.
Yeah.
That kind of a thing.
Yeah. 2020 is going to be a real interesting year for both Marvel and DC because...
And Challengers.
And Challengers. Because Marvel, now has somebody else overseeing them. That's not something that, you know, you're going to see in the January 2020 solicits anything based on that. That's not how fast comics work. But you might see something by the end of 2020 where it's like, their line might look different. The emphasis might be on different projects. The scope of publishing might be different. That could definitely happen.
Might you use the phrase paradigm shift?
I don't know that I would go that far. It's weird with Marvel specifically because one of the easy things to say is like, oh, well, the comics are going to look like a lot more like the movies. They already have been for the last 6 years.
Yeah.
They can't look any more like the movies. Their entire publishing strategies, almost 100%, are built around what the movies are doing. There will be a new Eternals comic coming out early 2020 in advance of the Eternals movie hitting theaters. There's already several Black Widow projects. There will be a new Shang-Chi project. There will be a new Black Knight comic book. All of this stuff is inevitable. We know it because it's how it's existed for the last 6 to 8 years. DC, I'm also interested in 2020 because they're getting a lot more scrutiny from AT&T, and that's going to put them under pressure to deliver more hits or create more buzzworthy projects that maybe a few years ago they would not feel as much pressure to do. So yeah, 2020 going to be a real interesting year for both of the major superhero publishers.
I was going to say, I hope we're around to see it, but
I'm sure we will be.
we will be.
Yeah.
As fans from the outside. Well,
No, Challengers aren't going anywhere.
What?
You say stuff like that and people get real scared.
Another announcement from this week was Netflix picking up Bone
Yeah.
to potentially adapt it.
I think it's definitely going to happen. The other times it was more like by studios that were trying to land at places, and that's always perilous. It's not a done deal when something like that gets optioned, even by, Disney or Fox, because that stuff would just, maybe it'll sit around, maybe we won't find a window for it, maybe we don't like where it's going, the creator moves on, whatever. But when Netflix picks something up, it's pretty much a done deal. Like, they move real fast, and they've got 52 weeks a year they've got to release content. So yeah, I think Bone definitely happening this time at Netflix. Do you think it's going to lead to more Bone graphic novel sales, or is that a tapped-out market?
I don't know. You had made an excellent point a few days ago.
Only by accident.
Bone first started coming out in 1991 as a black and white comic that Jeff Smith was doing by himself.
Cartoon
books. And after a while, he transitioned to Image, but just for a brief period of time. And he knew it was only temporary, which is why the graphic novels were still coming out under Cartoon Books imprint. And there are tons of printings and different colors in the logos to denote that and whatnot. And he published a total of, I don't remember, 52, 57, 50, 55. 55 issues. And he stopped the sequential Bone comic in 2004.
Okay.
In 2005, Scholastic picked it up to do color editions.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the start of the all-ages graphic novel revolution.
Pretty much, yeah. It's weird to think because it feels so permanent in the industry that it was only fairly recently, as far as publishing is concerned, that stuff has been as huge as it is.
Yeah, we have this market which is dominating the bestseller lists.
Yeah.
And it's still a baby.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, it's one thing to look at kids and say, like, I remember life before Harry Potter, that kind of thing. Because
Sure.
Harry Potter changed a lot in this world.
Sure.
But
It definitely led to people accepting wizards a lot more.
yeah, but they don't have to hide in shadows anymore. They can
No,
be proud
it's
of what
nice.
they do. But the huge publishing boon that is younger readers and all ages graphic novels
Yeah.
it started so recently, and it's so massive, and it's, dare I say, a paradigm shift.
Say it.
I won't. That's what John Moxley used when he was jumping ship.
Isn't that his finishing move?
But also, Triple H now uses that to talk about NXT.
Okay.
Like, you can't do that.
I think
not.
I think isn't Mox's finishing move called the Paradigm Shift?
Is it?
I think it is.
It used to be called Dirty Deeds, but
I'm pretty sure they called it the Paradigm Shift when I saw him recently do
That's
it on an
fine.
episode of
That's fine.
AEW Dynamite.
Dynamite. How great was that little kid as Orange Cassidy?
Pretty great. Because I saw that kid at that show and I'm like, that's so cool. That kid dressed up like Orange Cassidy. And then there's this 2-minute thing of Orange Cassidy beating Cody.
Right.
Does that count on his win-loss records?
That's a good question.
Somebody
That is a good
buy that
question.
kid a plane ticket to Baltimore. He's facing Chris Jericho at Full Gear.
And most people credit Raina with the success of younger reader books, and rightly so.
Yeah.
But she didn't originate it.
No, I mean, if anything, I think it's a 3-step process. It's Bone for sure to show Scholastic this could be a market if you do it in this way. Like, even Scholastic, I think, at New York had mentioned that, like, they didn't even know if color was the way to go because Bone was black and white.
Yeah.
But they were finding, like, no, the kids respond to it better if it's color, so they colored Bone. The next one was Amulet. I think that's really when it became something where it's like, oh, this was not a pre-existing property. This was
Yeah, that was the thing that blew up for us.
created for this market. And then, but even that was, like, Bone is a fantasy series. Amulet is, like, sci-fi fantasy. You know, it's all kind of genre-y stuff. Like, Smile, Raina's book, that's the one where it blew up, and it really created a whole different way of looking at what you can do with kids' graphic novels. It doesn't have to be genre-oriented. It can be memoir stuff. It can be, stuff about kids in junior high, because that's what the kids in 5th and 6th grade want to read about. They want to read about what they're going to be doing in a couple years. High school stuff is maybe too much for them, but junior high stuff is just a little bit further for them than where they're at right now. And, I mean, that's, like, Raina-style graphic novels is basically a whole genre. And it's maybe the biggest genre in kids' graphic novels. Like Vera's stuff and Kristen Gridsuk's...
Making Friends?
Yeah, Making Friends, yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
I
like...
got one!
Yeah, a bunch of other stuff like that. Kathy Johnson's doing graphic novels in that field. There's a bunch of things where it's great to see it because it is not just, oh, they're fighting elves and dwarves, or, oh, they're on a spaceship, or whatever stuff that you would normally think, like, that's all the kids care about. It's every type of story that you can tell in comics, but you can tell it for kids as well.
Yeah.
Um,
We did good today,
okay.
but we had a lot of kids in.
Okay, cool.
Well, it's cool for
Well,
us, but they're in because they're not in school.
They have school off.
We had some teachers in today.
Yeesh. Hopefully that gets solved for the teachers.
Yes, very, very quickly. The Chicago teachers are striking, and we fully support their desire for better pay, better conditions.
Yeah,
smaller classes, more teachers.
A lot of things that they need.
And it took me a minute to get it today. I'm like, it's not a holiday. Oh, there's no school. Oh, what a burden this must be for families that count on their parents. They count on their kids having, care for the day.
Yeah, it is unfortunate.
When they struck a few years ago, we were doing things for teachers, and I don't know that we've discussed that at all this time. But
I was thinking about it as well. Some of it is, let's see what happens on Monday.
Yeah, it's also hard. Like, you don't want to promote it because you don't want to be mercenary and be like, yeah, we're, you want to support them without making it
In general, what we did before and what we'll do now is not the specific program, but we want to make keeping up with their comics not a burden for striking teachers. So if you are a striking teacher and you shop at Challengers, we will help out. Talk to us, and we will find a way to keep you reading the comics that you're reading.
Hey, Dal, speaking of
Patrick.
Students.
Okay.
We did a thing yesterday.
We did, that's right, yeah.
So, back up, and when was it you did this interview?
Oh, Christ, I don't remember.
A while ago, earlier this year, Dal did a sit-down interview at the store.
Yeah, I'll do a little preamble for that.
Okay. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union. Oh, I thought that was the only preamble, sorry.
No. This was, I want to say, over the summer. It was not during the school year. A teacher for a high school level student journalism summer program had come in and said, hey, I've got some kids and they need to do an interview with a local business person for a project. Would you be okay doing that? They'll come in, they'll handle everything. And I coordinated with her to figure out a day that could happen. And kids came in and they had cameras, they had sound equipment, they had scripts prepared. Like, they were very, very prepared for what they needed to do. And it was just 15 minutes of me sitting in a chair, them asking questions about Challengers as a business, comics as an industry, my own experiences, selling comics in the neighborhood. It was really, I thought they did a great job. They made it totally painless. I've worked with professionals, I've worked with amateurs. This felt more professional than it did amateur. A few months later, we finally got footage from it.
We got the video, which is the thing we rarely get, if ever.
Yeah, it's weird. It's edited together well, and again, I think they did a good job on it. It's a little strange kind of how it's structured, because they would ask me questions, and sometimes it would be two-part questions, and they would keep the first part for the actual finished edited project, but they'd cut out the second part. So I have a few of these things where I'm like, well, on the one hand, and I say something, and then I cut to another thing, and it's like, there was two hands, I feel like. But overall, it was nice that they finally sent us that, because, we don't usually get to see what actually gets made. But then alongside that, they said, hey, we're doing another project. This is not a field trip project, so you have to come here. Would you both be willing to come in and do something?
And we picked the day that we could both do it. And it's the Westtown Academy, which is a high school level. Smaller than your average high school. I'm not sure if it's specialized or a intensive study or
magnet.
Or where like a trade high school.
Mm-hmm. Like a science academy?
Something like that. My nephew Parker does the same thing you did when you were working for me.
Oh, okay.
Back then, it's not the same thing, but he goes to a place and does a thing, and that's part of his high school curriculum.
Sure.
And it's in the same type of thing, video production and editing. So we went to the school, and it was a TV production class, and they have a dedicated room. We were confused immediately because the email said, come to room 110, and then somebody escorted us to room 134.
Yeah, we're
I'm like,
no.
no,
and-
this is the right place.
Yeah, but then there was an adult in the room who's like, yep, this is it. I'm like, okay, we won't fight you.
One of the funniest parts of the day was I was unclear if this was like what Dal had just done, only we're going there, and I wasn't sure if this was a large group of kids that we'd be talking to, but it was just a handful of students who need this experience recording.
Yeah, which is
People.
what I thought it would be. Like, if we had talked about this, I probably would have said, I don't think it's going to be that many kids. But we didn't really talk about it, and then all of a sudden we both had completely different ideas about what it was going to be.
Yeah, I dressed in normal Challengers attire, and Dal was dressed in his street clothes.
Yeah, just day off clothes, because I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is just a bunch of kids.
Well, on Wednesday I'd said, hey, should we bring a stack of comics for the students?
Sure. Which, yeah. I mean, but I guess there was a misunderstanding about how many students that was.
Yeah,
Like, I thought
yeah.
it was just like, oh yeah, it's probably like 10 kids or something. Yeah, sure. But you thought it was like a classroom full of kids.
Right. I thought it was a classroom full of kids, especially with Chicago public school teachers having to strike because of how many students are in
Yeah.
the classrooms and they're overflowing.
Yeah.
I want to make sure everyone was covered.
No, this was like 6 kids.
Yeah, there were a few more came in, as it were, and it was I liked the questions a lot because they weren't the standard. I don't know anything about comics. Let me ask you questions.
Uh-huh.
They had
What's
a little
your
bit.
most valuable comic book?
Yeah. They put a little bit of thought into it, and it was an interesting experience because, again, we both thought we thought differently than each other of what
Yeah.
it was. But the experience Dal had previously with students from that school was all positive. And this wasn't negative. It was just like the kids didn't really want to be there.
Yeah,
Some of them were prepared and invested and involved in it. And some of them were like, oh, well, we have to do this thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they were a little bit less engaged with the process, which led to a little bit of like, I can just leave, right?
Did anybody else have any questions?
Uh-huh.
What about you, person? No, I don't have any. Okay, what about this? Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. No, you just said you didn't have any.
You said no.
You said you didn't have any. You said no.
But yeah, it was. I wouldn't say I enjoyed doing it because it was a thing we were asked to do and then we did it. But I hope it was valuable for them. I hope it was helpful in some way.
Here's what was weird to me. First of all, I don't know that I've been back in a high school in a long time. Like we've gone to elementary schools to do book fairs and stuff like that.
Sure.
But that's a huge disconnect between who I am as an adult and these much younger children. Remember the kids with the bookmarks?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't forget, I am an alpha bully.
Uh-huh.
That is one of the most apt descriptions I've ever heard, and I don't know if I should be proud of it or not. But what
But
I'm
it sounds like you already
referencing
are.
is Marty from Marty and Sarah Love Wrestling and fan of Challengers had texted me one day and said, "Hey, who's that guy who works at Challengers with the who does the toys?" I'm like, "Oh, that's Kent Freeman from Doomco Designs." He's like, "Yeah, we just saw him at Rotofugi." And I said, "I hope you shoved him to the ground and then laughed at him." I would have. I mean, vinyl toys? Nerd. And Marty just responded, "Yeah, I forgot you're an alpha bully."
Oh. Mm.
I'm like, "Oh." Huh, huh. And then I shared that with Kent, and Kent said that was very apt. But anyway, I just thought of that because I was, I guess, kind of bullying those kids with the bookmarks. They were driving me insane, though.
Kind of.
But that was years ago.
I wouldn't say bullying.
No. I was... They kept wanting to take bookmarks, and after a point, I just wouldn't let them. Because they took a bunch already. Those aren't free.
Understandable.
Anyway, walking around this high school, kids today look more adult than we did when we were in high school.
Yeah.
So, to me, it felt like these are people that just come to the store normally.
Sure.
So I didn't feel out of place. I didn't feel like the old guy who's coming to the high school that nobody wants there. I didn't feel like I used to have a certain attitude when people would come in and give presentations.
Sure.
When I was a surly alpha bully high school student.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't feel like that was the case yesterday.
Okay.
Maybe I'm just projecting, but in a positive light.
Sure.
Maybe I'm just making it more like, no, it's okay. But yeah, like I didn't feel out of place. I felt like this is just an extension of what we do, and here we are talking to two kids who would buy comics about comics. I don't know that any of them actually buy comics.
No, maybe not. But in general, like, yeah, I thought they were decently prepared, at least as far as like the questions and stuff go. There was just some elements of the filming and recording process where it was like, I don't know if you're taking this that seriously.
Yeah, I don't know that this was going to be a finished product that they're using for anything, because it can't have been.
No, I don't expect anyone to ever see this outside the school. I think this is just for them to create content to then have a finished piece to look at and go, okay, when you were making it, here's what you did right and wrong, and we can see because this is the finished product.
Got it.
Like you've done all of the steps to create something finished, and now we can talk about, what went right and wrong during the writing process, during the recording process, during the editing process, to get us to this finished piece of work.
Did the camera turn off?
Right. Did the camera switch off 10 minutes in?
Did anyone get hit in the head with a boom mic?
Did the boom mic fall into frame because the person holding it wasn't strong enough to hold it, and then the second person to hold it kind of didn't keep track of where it was? Yeah, again, I hope it was valuable for the kids.
Yeah, and that's... I didn't know where to go when I started saying that, because I legitimately thought we were doing a better thing than we did.
What do you mean?
Like, it helped them out, but I thought it was more of a grand purpose that we had, but it didn't have to be us. It could have been anybody.
Well, yes and no. I definitely think it's something where they needed two people.
Yeah.
And they needed two people they didn't already know. So we're two people they didn't already know who already worked with them before. But I think it's more than that, because I think we approach those sort of things in a way that is helpful to them as, prospective journalists.
Yeah, I mean, we took it seriously.
Yeah, we came in there, we were on time, we were professional, we gave them good answers, we took the process seriously, we didn't, change it around just because it was for kids or whatever. Like,
right.
Yeah.
We treated it like it was any interview, for sure.
And I think that I assume that has value for them, as they need something to record, and we gave them something decent to record. So that's, I think, where the help comes in, is we were not detrimental to their process. We didn't create problems for them.
Well, that's good. We're not in the business of creating problems.
No.
I mean, we create them. We don't get paid for it.
True.
We have to pay for them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think that any of those situations, it's not like, hey, sport, let me tell you about comic. Like, there's no condescension there.
Not from us, I don't think.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely not. So if you've made it this far, you obviously started at the beginning, where it was me telling Dal a story about an encounter I had in the store where a person reacted oddly to some Faith graphic novels.
Yep.
Well, here's the postscript to that. That guy was in again on Wednesday, and I pointed him out to Dal, and Dal said, yeah, I think he's developmentally disabled.
He definitely is somebody that, I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this. He's trying his best. I think there's things that he says and does that I don't know that he has a lot of control over. So
it takes a little bit of the, like, I can't believe this story, to like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So I thought it's a nice little bookend to this episode.
Sure.
This episode, which is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast on the Yak Channel Podcast Network. Tickets are on sale now for our AJ Mendez and Amy Garcia signing. You heard us talk about it in detail last week. You can go to the link tinyurl.com/glow signing, and tickets are selling.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm not going to lie and say they're almost gone or they're moving briskly, but no, we've sold a good amount.
Yeah.
It's doing just fine.
Yeah, I'm not disappointed.
Nor should you be. And right at the start of our recording tonight, we got the flyer that Gustavo Duarte designed for us for his event.
Cool.
We did a temporary one that's up around the store now, but this was just a placeholder until his came in, which it did now.
Nice. Have to get those done in the next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. Thanks for listening.
Keep reading comics.
And now, I guess, Kent. Say, Kent Freeman, the creator of Tarbus the Tardigrade, the world's first vinyl toy designed in virtual reality. I understand you have an art show coming up for that very creature.
Hi, Patrick. You understand correct. Yeah, October 25th from 6 to 10 p.m. is the opening reception at Gallery F, right up the street on Milwaukee at 2415 North Milwaukee Avenue.
Look at you with the address and the time and everything.
I'm prepared. Wink, wink. But yeah, it's going to be a great show.
It's called Survive?
Yeah, the show is called Survive, an exploration of Tarbus the Tardigrade. There will be a ton of customized toys, some original sculpture work, some laser cut stuff, and contributed illustrations and paintings from a number of notable and fantastic illustrators.
You reached out to a bunch of creatives to do their own iteration of Tarbus.
Yeah, I provided people with a clear blank vinyl toy, and everyone's just worked their magic on it so far.
How many people did you give them to?
I want to say around 50-ish.
Okay, I saw a list of some of the people, and vinyl toys are not my forte.
Fair.
And every single name was clearly a quote-unquote name, like a company or a brand of some sort.
Yeah, I've kind of gotten around at this point. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
And you know a lot of people in the industry.
Yeah, I'm trying my best, trying to schmooze and make moves and deals and rub those elbows and stuff. So
it's going to be other people's version of your creation, and then a whole bunch of other work of yours.
Exactly. Yeah.
Are you showing off prototypes of upcoming releases?
No, not really.
Okay.
More just like individual 3D printed sculptural works. That'll be more solo sculpture work.
How big is Gallery F? I've never been inside.
Maybe like a Challenger's and a half.
Oh, okay.
Without
That's huge.
Without sidekicks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with
maybe around
sidekicks, Challengers.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. They've got a basement too, so it's a little harder to gauge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is everything for sale at this show?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay.
Give me that money, please.
And selfishly, I have a piece in it.
Yes, you do. Quite a
And,
fantastic one at that.
I must say that with all of the people that you know that you offered it to, I came to you and said, "Hey, I'll do it."
True, but you also knocked it out of the park.
You know what? I'm really happy with how mine came out. And part of it was I didn't really want to show you what was happening. I just wanted you to see it. But
Fair.
I sent you a little progress shot of what was happening.
Yeah.
And then you shared with me somebody else's. Because on Instagram, people are showing their finished pieces.
Yeah.
And
They're work in progress.
the
Yeah.
Micronaut ones are pretty great.
Oh my god, right? Fully resin cast, so it's just clear, transparent resin for those, but
Nice.
oh boy, yeah, good stuff.
But you sent me one that was pretty similar in idea to what mine was going to be. Execution was different, but then I tried to finish it off in a whole different direction.
Yeah, and honestly, they look different enough.
They do.
Yeah.
And one of the things I wanted to do, but I didn't have the parts, and I didn't want to have to buy things for this,
Yeah, fair.
was to put
Yeah.
lights inside of it, like have lights come up through his feet out of a base.
At least one person is doing that.
Are they? Mm-hmm. But I thought about how having a battery operated, because I have a battery operated lights rig in the back of Sidekicks.
Okay.
And I thought, we can do that. But then if I turn it on during the show, then it dies. And then someone has to buy a watch battery, and watch batteries are not cheap.
Right.
It's like,
or
oh.
easy to put in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would have just ruined the whole... I mean, it would look good for a little bit. But no, I'm pretty happy with mine. So,
Nice.
again, that date and time,
October 25th.
which is a Friday.
Which is a Friday from 6 to 10 p.m.
And will the show be up past that opening reception?
for 2 weeks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be a great show. I hope you come out.
I'll be there.
Yeah, you will.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook Follow @Challengers on Twitter and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.